Hello and welcome to Reform 21. I'm Leonie. Music has the ability to speak to anybody, regardless of their background. But whether or not your music can touch, connect, and move those who listen, that's another different thing. It is indeed a gift which our special guest here understands very well, and that's Adam Gyorgy. Adam is internationally known classical pianist who is best known for his Liszt interpretations. He is recognized as a Liszt ambassador in his home country, Hungary. In 2012, Adam opened the European Football Championship. He performed Chopin's Winter Wind live in front of 60,000 people in the stadium in Warsaw, and it was broadcast live to 300 million viewers across the globe. Adam himself is not new to Jakarta. He has performed here for quite a few times, including his performances in Aula Sinfonia Jakarta recently in April 2016. Next to me, I also have Michelle Sugiarto, a talented soprano who earned her master's at the Manhattan School of Music. She has performed several times at Aula Sinfonia Jakarta, and she is currently an active program notes writer for Aula Sinfonia Jakarta. Michelle, too, has a few questions in store for our dear Adam Gyorgy. Let's have a talk with Adam. Adam, back in 2012, something interesting happened in your life because we saw classical music being played in a football stadium in Warsaw. Classical music and football doesn't really, it's not a common combination. Can you share with us what it was like and what happened?
That's what we thought is not a common combination. This is why we did the project. It was an amazing experience because I think the first time in history was classical music connected to sport in a scale of event like the Euro 2012 opening. We played the opening ceremony. I performed there in the Warsaw National Stadium to 300 million people, to a global television broadcast, which was an amazing experience. I think it was a milestone of connecting music and sport, classical music and sport.
As you play in front of such a huge audience, how did you prepare yourself, or how did you see yourself connecting? Because they're like live audience, which you don't see, but then you have all this stadium full of people watching you. How do you connect with them with your music?
It's all about the energy, what you project, and then how you embrace people. Let it be. Last night in Jakarta, I played a private recital here with 40 people. Just a few hours before, we were at Aula Sinfonia with 1,300 people. A few weeks before in Carnegie Hall with 3,000 people. I'm going to Esplanade Concert Hall next week to Singapore to perform. 60,000 people is actually, I would say it's the same. It's a little different energy, but the main goal is to create one unity with the crowd and to share your music with them. But it's an amazing experience, and having said that, I think the energy worked very well. We had a good connection with the crowd.
Now, the people who are watching this, you may not know about this interesting story that happened to Adam when he was young. Well, Adam, those who have read about how you were like when you were young, and do tell us how old you were. Your dad actually found something interesting when you drew things upside down, and he took you to the doctor to find out what happened.
It was crazy. He sat opposite to me and he said, "My son, please draw a house for me." And I drew a house, and the house was upside down, took shape upside down. And he kept asking me to draw a house, and it was still upside down. And they took me to the doctor. They thought something was wrong with my eyes, and then something, something is wrong back in here in my head. And then weeks later, he actually sat next to me and he asked me to draw a house, and the house began to take shape right side up. So that's when he figured that when he asked me to draw a house, I drew it in order to prepare it for him to see in the best way. So I think it's a natural ability to share what we have and to share what we feel. From a very early age, I think I was 4 or 5 years old, I was focusing on how can I share my emotions and how can I share my music with other people, and let it be drawing, like drawing a house. It will be the same if you sit opposite next to me. I would just draw it in a way that it shows the best to you. So that's the background of the story a little bit. And I think on the concert scene, we do the same. We share music and we play to the audience, and that's the most important thing, because once an artist starts playing to himself, it's just it's a different world. It's not the meaning of a concert coming together is really to share your music with the audience.
I don't know how many of you who are watching this are musicians. Well, Michelle is a musician. I mean, she's a soprano. And who actually inspired you? Do you think everybody was born to be a musician, or they grow to love music?
You see, family is really important to me. My father, mother, my brother, they're amazing people, and I think family is really important in life. It keeps you centered, it keeps you connected, and my biggest inspiration is my father. He's an engineer, but an amateur musician. He came back home and he played the piano all the time. We had an upright piano at that time. Then I got a Steinway when I was 12 years old, and I was very lucky because we couldn't straight afford it, but he made his efforts to support my artistic studies with a Steinway. So my father was my inspiration very first. I had the privilege to have amazing teachers back in Hungary, and I think later on when I established the Gyorgy Foundation in New York, creating an academy to host incredible talents from around the world, helping them to develop their own musical careers, that appreciation drove this initiation to establish an academy, that I had amazing teachers to inspire me. And I know once I started to travel around the world that it's not given at all in all countries and all continents. And I come to Southeast Asia for 15 years now, and I saw the amazing transition of this beautiful country in the past 15 years, culturally, infrastructurally. It's an amazing journey, and to be able to participate in it, supporting young talents in Indonesia, inviting them to Hungary, to my home country, to study and giving them scholarships. It's the best, the minimum, and the best what I can do.
Viewers, I'm sure some of them, or many of them are parents. And parents somehow have this imagination or aspiration that their children could be the next Adam Gyorgy, or the next great pianist. And they push their kids to play the piano since young. What would you say to parents like that, who think that if I give my children a very good piano lesson early in their life, they would push them to become a musician? What would you say to them?
I would inspire them to focus on education and music education, because piano education is not only about piano or music, or will the kid, will my son or daughter will be the next top pianist in the world. You never know. We never know. We were hardworking kids. We loved what we were doing. We were inspired every day. We woke up every day and we had the passion to be better every single day in what we're doing. And I think success in life is not about money, is not about anything else. It's really about waking up every day, and every morning you say to yourself that you're blessed to wake up again and love what you love to do. So from this point of view, I would encourage parents to have their kids in music lessons. If they're not going to be musicians, they're going to be better in mathematics. They're going to be better in creativity. They're going to develop the brain, the two brains, basically, the two parts of the brain. We call it two brains. They're so separate, the left and right hemisphere. They will develop the two brains on a phenomenal way if they play music. So I think keeping parents focused on having the most out of their kids' musicality is very, very important.
When we talk about you teaching the children, be it in Indonesia or other parts of the world or in Southeast Asia, have you met interesting parents who have maybe wrong concept of their children learning music. The reason why I ask is that many of us want their children to love music, but parents sometimes unconsciously, they may have the wrong understanding, or they encourage their children not really the right way. We try and hope that more parents understand this better so that the children are not being put off, but being encouraged. How do you do that?
Okay, there's a couple of thoughts to share about it. One is a very visible, significant truth, is that music helps to organize thoughts, teaches you discipline. It's a lifestyle. It's not really that you play the piano. You wake up every day, you practice every day, you do it. It organizes you, it puts you together, and it helps you to be a better person every day. If you're a musician, period. Fantastic. The second thing is with parenting, and that's what I would answer your question a little more closely, is that it's a long journey. You know, we dedicate 20, 30 years to master a scale, a jump, a sound. You know, just my technique changes every time I sit down to the piano. Thank God, you know, we can. I don't play the same way as I used to play 20 years ago. They asked Muhammad Ali if you know, that he answered completely differently a question 30 years ago. And Muhammad Ali said, well, I'm happy because it would have been worth to live the past 30 years if I answered the question in the same way. So music keeps you moving. And if parents would understand that it's not a competition, it's not, I don't have to play better than you, you don't have to play better than me, it's about yourself and your own journey, how you take it and how you experience that journey. I experienced that in Asia we see a lot of piano competitions, and it's not necessarily bad, is how you take it. You know, well, if you win a piano competition, you seem to think that you're the best pianist in the world. If you don't win, you seem to think that you're the worst pianist of the world. None of it is true. You know, it's the journey, and I think if parents and kids both take the time to sit down together and understand that a competition is a great exposure, is a way to develop and a way to be better, then would be great. But it's not the objective. To stay on the journey for a long time, that's the objective.
Did your parents actually instill that value? Because you won quite a few awards when you were young.
I was very lucky, I have to be honest with you, you know. I was very fortunate. I entered competitions. I really enjoyed the repertoire, so I was familiar with the repertoire. I could play a very honest rendition of the repertoire. I think that was a big part of my prizes I won. And there was no... my parents were very supportive. They... you know, my mother passed away when I was 8 years old, so my father practically came to support our journey with his partner later, who's still with us today. It's a wonderful, wonderful lady. He was firm, you know. He wanted us to be with the people who inspire us. And I think the academy I initiated in Hungary, where we receive the students and families, it's also about the community. It's very important, who are you with, you know, who do you see every day? Are you inspired by your partner, by your friend, by your teacher, by your mentor? Or are you in a community which really doesn't inspire you, it pulls you down, or it's the one thing I experienced at Aula Sinfonia here in Jakarta, where I play these recitals, is that it's such a close-knit community. You know, we had a full concert hall. We had to repeat the concert the next day for the people who couldn't get in. We had a few hundred people the next day as well, because people want to belong here. You know, it's an amazing close-knit community, regardless of the amazing number of people who are together. They belong together, and that unity is very important in music as well.
I'd like to ask more about that, your experience at Aula Sinfonia Jakarta, but I think I'm going to let Michelle ask a few questions about Liszt and all that.
First of all, congratulations on the 2 inspiring performances that you gave at Aula Sinfonia Jakarta. And you are named the ambassador of Franz Liszt music. So this makes me and the viewers curious that out of a number of Hungarian composers who contribute to the classical music scenes, why do you choose to study and explore more about Franz Liszt and his music?
Okay, there's a simple answer to that. If you ask a person, do you like a pianist, or how do you choose your favorite pianist? do you like him or not? So with Franz Liszt, I can go down to the basic answer. I love him. I love his music. I love his expression. If I go a little deeper, I would say music is an international language, and it speaks about emotions and human values. And if I were a composer, now I'm not, but if I were a composer and I would compose a lot, I would possibly, and I were talented, if I was talented, I would possibly shape my thoughts on a similar way than Liszt did that. And so his language is very similar to mine. I think I understand what he wants to say on the piano. It's not my privilege to understand. There are a couple of other people who do that too. But I think I do, and I think I took enough time to analyze his pieces to really understand what he wants to say. He composed a lot of repertoire, song transcriptions, etudes, amazing transcendental etudes, the Paganini Liszt etudes, the Hungarian rhapsodies. The Liszt Sonata in B minor is what I played actually yesterday. It's the crown on the piano literature. It's the most beautiful and most complex piece of the literature itself. Liszt Sonata in B minor. So to understand that he's not a flashy composer with runs up and down and loud and fast passages, but he has something significant to say and to talk about. That's the most important thing. So I hear amazing pianists playing Liszt in Indonesia, and many of them actually understands what he was trying to say. So it's a thrill to come here to teach and have master classes in Indonesia. I went to Surabaya, I was in Medan, I was in Bandung, Bali. We have the Bali Academy as well. Every December, we host an academy in Bali to support local teachers and students. So there's a lot of good understanding of Liszt. Secondly, he was a rock star of his age. He was the one pianist who invited the piano recital itself. If you take a look at a pop concert today, when there's 60,000 people together, and people just go crazy for the artist. You go back 150 years and you had it with Liszt. He was the pop star of his age. He had the piano, they handled the piano above his head on stage because there were so many people they couldn't even bring in the piano. He was just, he broke strings. He was just like Paganini himself. Was just an amazing showman. Probably his inspiration and his energy embraced the audience, and that's the most important thing in performing arts.
And I believe through Liszt music, you have the inspiration to improvise some of notable works and maybe do a little compositions that I heard in your recital or the performances that you gave at Aula Sinfonia Jakarta.
Yes. I usually go for simple tunes. You heard that. It's simple melodies, no complications. There's no... I think the less is more in music. If you see my performances, I don't do exaggerated movements. I try not to do exaggerated movements or to play too fast, too loud. These compositions are very simple tones, simple melodies, just to be able to understand what I'm trying to say at the piano. There is no additional flair to them. And I think the simplicity is the key to those arrangements. One of my compositions called A Day in New York. We closed down the Grand Central Terminal in New York City to shoot the video for that. The simplicity of the piece connected to the city of New York and my emotions, I think it creates a great balance.
Out of many viewers who are watching this show, I believe some of you are inspired to study more about Franz Liszt. So could you describe and tell us a few characteristics that we can trace while we are listening to his music?
Oh yes. He was an amazingly good-hearted person with his charitable organization and his charitable activities. He was an amazing teacher. Go for the colors and go for creating beautiful colors. Don't go for playing scales up and down and just you know, try to be technically perfect or impress the audience with the scales and runs, and go for the colors, go for the beauty in his music. Don't go for the technical. They say, oh, Liszt is so difficult. Liszt is so difficult, but it's not the point. You don't get to the point if you go for the technical difficulties. Go for the colors, go for the emotions. And he was a very deeply emotional person. So don't stay on the surface, dive into it.
So what's your favorite compositions of Liszt?
Ooh, it's very difficult to choose one. I have 4 favorites, so I'm going to tell you 4 favorites. The Liszt Sonata in B minor, of course, as I said, is the crown of the literature. It's an amazing, amazing composition. La Campanella, which I played as well, it's my kind of my fingerprint. I played almost in all my recitals around the world. Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 brings a lot from my own country, so it talks about my Hungarian roots, which is very important, and the Rigoletto paraphrase, which I also play very, very often, is an opera transcription. So I choose 4 different pieces from different categories of pieces he composed, which are my favorites.
So Liszt is really famous to challenge musicians both technically and emotionally. So could you give some tips on how we can practice his music and how we can master or overcome the challenges?
You know, piano practicing it's very mental and very physical at the same time. You know, you need to be focused all the time. You need to be focused and concentrated all the time. You don't just sit down and play the piano and do the rounds without your brain. You know, you always practice with being there. Secondly, if you take a look at any, let's say, tennis sports, you know, football, table tennis, the movement itself comes from a slow practice. If you want to make a movement yours, you never practice fast. So Liszt has fast passages, but the key to execute those passages is endless slow movements to make it yours, to incorporate it to your body. You can't, if there's a fast movement or a fast connection between 2 notes, you can't really do that. You can't really learn it fast. You have to trust yourself. If you practice slowly, you're actually going to get there. All of us make a mistake of going on stage, and before going on stage warming up, you play super fast and you run up and down, and you actually lose control in your movements. So my suggestion to your question, my answer to the question would be you can never practice slowly enough and never practice enough slowly. Keep it controlled and keep it centered and then keep it calm, and then of course once you go on stage you have to let it go. You know, you have to dive into it, but it's very important when you practice, keep it slow.
And for the viewers who are starting to learn and appreciate classical music, which piece by Liszt would you suggest to them to start listening? To know, just to give an introduction about Franz Liszt?
The pieces I mentioned, La Campanella is a big hit. Any of the Rhapsodies, No. 6, Hungarian Rhapsodies, No. 6, No. 12, No. 2. You know, I wouldn't start with the sonata, but I would start with the Paganini Liszt etudes as well to go into that. The Legend No. 2 would be great to listen. There are a couple of pieces which are great. The Consolacion, you know, Liszt Consolacion would be good. Just go for it and enjoy the journey. Again, it's the most important. And don't rush anything. Not the practicing for sure, and not your career. You know, you have the time of the world, and just practice and enjoy the journey.
As you talk about Liszt, I remember about the experience that you had when you were 18, because a pianist actually canceled his concert 10 days before the big day, and nobody wanted to take up that role and change or replace that concert, but you did at the age of 18. Tell us what happened and what really went through your mind as an 18-year-old young man.
You know, I was a student at the Liszt Academy, and I technically called my professor to cancel my piano lesson. So I lifted the phone and I wanted to say, Professor Nador, I can't play tomorrow because for some reason I couldn't practice. We had this policy for the piano lessons that if the student was not prepared, we could actually pull out of the lesson, because the professor said, you only come to lessons if you practice, so you don't steal my time. I think is a reasonable approach. So I wanted to call him to cancel the lesson. He has an amazing personality, so once he answers the phone and he has to say something, he doesn't really let you talk. So he answered the phone and he said, oh, Adam, it's so nice that you called. You know, we have this performance in 10 days, and this Japanese pianist had to cancel. He broke his hand or something happened to him. He's not coming to Hungary. The concert is sold out and nobody's able to jump in. So I said yes. Next morning he said, 8 o'clock, see you at the studio. So I went in 8 o'clock. It was the Liszt Piano Concerto No. 1, which I played with Aula Sinfonia as well 2 days ago. So that piece accompanies me ever since. And I was the one who jumped in to that performance. And that was the initiation as well for me to come to Southeast Asia, because a person was there at the concert who offered my CD to Jakarta, and that was the first invitation, and it all folded out from there.
But really, what went through your mind when you said yes? Because you have to prepare everything in 10 days. People prepare for concerts for much longer than that.
Years. Yeah.
Yes.
As I said about the practicing, so the most important thing was, can I do it in 10 days, and how can I do it in 10 days? I can do it in 10 days if I know exactly how I'm going to practice and learn slowly. You know, if I start to play fast, 10 days, you cannot do anything. You have to do slowly, have the movements into your hands, your fingers, your palms, your arms. So I practically build up the 10 days on a way that I knew that the last 2 days I'm going to be up in speed, but not the first days, not the second days, you know, not the fourth, fifth, sixth days. I still need to keep it calm, keep it slow, have the movements and practice. It's a lot of discipline, but especially when you have a short time, you need to be very accounting on those times. How do you use it? And this is a philosophy you can also adopt to life. You know, life is not too long either. I'm very young still, but I think it's good to pace things in life.
You know, if somebody were to ask you, hey, you know, I've got a son and he's young, or hey, I'm young, not as young as 18, but I want to learn something from this man called Adam Gyorgy. What would you say to them in terms of anything that they do? Because it really took guts for you to really say yes. What would you say to them in terms of inspiring them to say that age is not really a thing, or what would you say?
I would tell them that everything is possible. You know, I live in New York now, in a beautiful place. I'm very, very lucky, close to Central Park, and I'm from the countryside of Hungary. Hard work is inevitable. You know, if you want to go somewhere, you need to work hard. Let it be at the piano, at the keyboard, or outside of the practice room. You know, you need to think about yourself seriously. You need to. It's an amazing journey. You need to work very, very hard. It's talent, practice, and at the end of the day, the decision is how hard you work on your own career. I would love to help if somebody would like to come to the academy. You know, they could apply at application@adamgyorgy.com. We have application process every year for talents or just music lovers or families. We would love to welcome them in Hungary and be a part of the academy.
Now, let's talk about Aula Sinfonia Jakarta, because you've been to many, many concert halls. So can you share with us more about Aula Sinfonia Jakarta, because it is the only concert hall at that level in Indonesia. And in comparison to the other concert halls that you've been to or you've performed in or you've just watched concerts in, how is it like? Because not everybody has been there.
It's, you know, having performed in Carnegie Hall, in London, Budapest, Esplanade, Singapore, Aula Sinfonia is definitely one of the top venues in the world right now because of the acoustic, the facilities. Sometimes you you do things and you expect them to be great. Sometimes you do things and they go beyond yourself. I think Alla Sinfonia is a combination of both, because a great team has been planning the whole and executing the whole, and I think it went even greater than the expectations were with the whole. I think international artists like myself come in and play and have an amazing vibe and amazing energy. People are around you, you know, as you're like sitting in the middle of the crowd, you know. It's fantastic. The acoustic is extraordinary. Is just unbelievable, you know, just competing with the best halls in the world. Capacity is great, you know, logistics are good, you know, people can park downstairs. I'm not, you know, that much into logistics. I come and play, and then I do the autograph sessions, and I'm happy to do the artistic part, but I think the concert hall is a great facility to host international artists, and I hope many more will come to perform. To general audience, I would say, come here because the performance is great, and you will have access to classical music in an environment which is unique in Jakarta. It's the first great concert hall in Jakarta. I can say that. The musicians, I would say, come here to perform because you have amazing instruments and a world-class facility to accommodate your performance, and it's going to be a great performance for sure.
Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any more questions, maybe?
Yes, speaking about your academy, so aside from hosting your academy in Hungary, you actually host them here in Indonesia.
Yes.
So what inspired you to host your academy in Indonesia and to teach the students here?
My connection goes back with Indonesia for 15 years now, and when I come here, I like to teach, but I learn a lot too. So we had this amazing academy back in Hungary every year in July, and we decided to bring the concept here to Indonesia. So we get the same teaching concept in Indonesia, in Bali, in December. Every year we're there to give and learn as well at the same time. Also, for the people who can't really afford to travel to Europe, they could still participate similar program in a different environment in Bali, and it's a better support for them because they don't have access to the programs in Europe. So we bring it down here, and they have access to the Bali Academy.
And to conclude today's interview, and this is for all the viewers who are watching, so what do you hope for in terms of promoting classical music? Do you see a bright future for it?
I do. I do see a bright future, and I think this is just the way to go, because when I started to play classical music, my dad said the world is going to an electronic direction, and the acoustic string sound and the vibration of an acoustic instrument will be higher and higher valued throughout the times, and I really believe in this. You know, once we have our phones and iPads and computers, we spend our day indoor, mostly watching a screen. You know, these resonations which classical music can give, it's even more and more important. The experience of live music, coming to a concert, you know, being there. Sometimes I just go there, and sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. I'm just there. It's not, people are afraid of coming to classical concerts. Sometimes they don't know how to react. They don't know how to. Don't be afraid. Come, just be there. Don't do this. You can fall asleep. You can be there. It's for you. It's not for us. It's for the audience. Come in. Relax. Meditate. Pray. Be there and be a part of it. Let it fill you up with joy and happiness. There's no expectation in a classical concert. Be there and take whatever you can take. And I think there's a bright future for classical music.
Thank you, Adam, for your time and for inspiring all of us. And thank you too for watching Reform 21. Stay tuned only at Reform 21.